Okay, we're going to start. Our daf today is daf Pei Vav, and we'll begin from the Mishnah on Pei Hey Amud Sheni, 85b by the Mishnah. Okay, and we're getting to the crux of the whole Masechta, what the point of everything is. So the Mishnah says, Chatos v'osham badei mechaperin, that if you have to bring a carbon chatas, or if you have to bring a carbon osham, let's say you swore falsely, that has to do with gezela. So sometimes the Torah tells you bring a carbon chatas, sometimes the Torah tells you bring a carbon osham. The basic difference is how you spray the blood. So then mechaperin, as soon as you bring it, of course, you get kapara, and of course, you have to do tshuva. Okay, now, Misa v'yoim ha-kippurim. Some averis that a person does, he doesn't get kapara until he dies. Some averis that you do, you don't get kapara, even if you do tshuva, again, until Yom Kippur comes. So, mechaprim im ha-tshuva. These get kapara only if you do tshuva. Means if the avera that you did required a misa, a death, you have to have done tshuva in your lifetime in order for the misa or the Yom Kippur to bring about atonement. The Mishnah is going to explain. So let's get it straight. There are basically 3 or 4 types of averas that a person could do. An avera that's avera. Let's say you didn't read Krishma, you didn't put on tefillin. You did an avera that you didn't do an essay, right? That's one type of avera. Then you have a certain type of lav, a lav hanitek la'aseh, which is a certain type of lav. Let's say you steal, and that lav is not such a severe lav because you have the opportunity to return the item that you stole. So that's a lav that can be remedied by an essay. That's a second type of lav. Those 2 types of averas, an assay and a lav hanitek la'aseh, you get kapara as soon as you do tshuva. You don't have to wait for Yom Kippur. Then there's going to be a type of avera that a lav, let's say you put on shatnez. So a person puts on shatnez, he's over a lav, don't wear shatnez. So there, your tshuva helps you, protects you that nothing bad will happen to you. But in order to get full atonement, you have to wait for Yom Kippur. Then there's another type of avera that a person does. Let's say an avera that has to do with krisis and mises bezdin, right? A krisis and mises bezdin. So then you need not only tshuva, you not only need Yom Kippur, but Yisurim, you need Yisurim also. Something bad has to happen to you. Then Yom Kippur will give you the forgiveness. And then there's the 4th type of avera that misa that you need to die is only if you do a chil al Shem. That's just the basic introduction, what we'll see about in the Gemara. So let's just read it. Teshuva, if you do tshuva, mechaperes al averes kalos, it forgives you for light averes. Al asay, if you did an avera that you over amidst a positive commandment, val lois asay, and a negative commandment. And I'm telling you that this negative commandment is a negative commandment that can be remedied by asay. So it's not every negative commandment. Only those negative commandments that can be remedied by the asay, then tshuva helps. But if you do most severe averis, hu toila, let's say you did a regular lois asay, so then tshuva protects you, but you don't get full atonement until Yom Kippur comes and brings you full atonement. So that's when tshuva along with Yom Kippur. Next, someone who says, let me do an avera and I'll do tshuva right away. He says it twice. I'll sin v'ashuv and I'll do tshuva. So then, you don't get heavenly assistance to do tshuva. Of course, tshuva can work, but you won't get the divine assistance that will enable you to do tshuva. So you'll have to work very hard on your emotions to be able to do a proper tshuva. Echtav, guys, a person says, I will sin, the Yom Kippur mechaper, and Yom Kippur will forgive. Don't worry, I'll have in mind that Yom Kippur will bring about atonement. Ein Yom Kippur mechaper. Yom Kippur does not bring about atonement. Okay. Again, of course, we don't believe that there's nothing that a person does, no matter how severe the avera is, there's no such a thing that you don't have tshuva. Just the question is, do you get the divine assistance to do tshuva or not? Averis shebein Adam l'mokim, if a sin between man and God, Yom Kippurim b'kaper, then Yom Kippurim brings about forgiveness. But Averis shebein Adam l'chavera, a sin between man and his friend, let's say you insulted someone, Ein Yom Kippurim b'kaper, Yom Kippur doesn't bring about atonement, until you make up with your friend. Azu Dorash Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah. Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah found the source for this, that Averis shebein Adam l'chaveroi, Yom Kippurim doesn't work, because the Torah says, Ki v'yoyim hazeh yichaper aleichem mikol chatoseichem, from I'm going to forgive you from all your averos, lifnei Hashem titoru. Before Hashem, you will become pure. So usually there is a pause between, if you read the trup, there's a pause between mikol chatoseichem and then lifnei Hashem titoru. But the way Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah darshan is that lifnei Hashem is modifying all the averos. So he darshans like this: Averis shebein Adam l'mokim, only those averos that are lifnei Hashem, that only Hashem knows about. Yom Kippurim b'chapa, Yom Kippurim brings about forgiveness. Averis shebein Adam l'chaveroi, but averos that between man and his friend, ein Yom Kippurim b'chapa ad shiratzas chaveroi, until you actually bring about forgiveness by your friend. That's lifnei Hashem. Amar Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva darshan that lifnei Hashem titoro the way it's supposed to be. That lifnei Hashem titoro, in front of Hashem, you will become purified. But Rabbi Akiva takes it one step further, that God will sort of wash you, so to speak. He is purifying you. Amar Rabbi Akiva, Ashreichem Yisrael, how lucky Jewish people are. Lifnei mi atam entar, in front of who you are purifying yourself. And the point is, mi mitara eschem, who's actually purifying you? In other words, when you do an avera, your soul has dirt on it. And so who's washing you like a baby in a bath? God. Avichem shebashmaim, your Father in heaven, who's giving you a bath. Shenema, the pasuk says, V'zrakti aleichem mayim tarim, I'm going to sprinkle pure waters on you, utartem, and you will become pure. Ba'omer, and the pasuk says, Mikveh Yisrael, that the Jewish people have a hope that God is the hope of the Jewish people. But mikveh could also mean like a mikveh, gathering of water. Ma mikveh mitaras atmem, just like a mikveh purifies those that are tamei. Af HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he himself, mitaras Yisrael, is purifying the Jewish people. So we see two concepts from these two Tanoim, mostly from Rabbi Akiva, that not only any avera that you do, God will sprinkle water and you'll become pure, no matter how severe the avera is. But not only is he sprinkling water, he's also rubbing you down and cleaning you personally, so to speak. That's the benefit that lifnei Hashem titora. Hashem is bringing you the purification. Next, the Gemara said, the Mishnah said, Asham Vadai. That what? That Asham Vadai brings about kapara. In Asham Tali Loy, but in Asham Tali, that is the carbon that you bring to protect you. There's a certain type of carbon that if you don't know, let's say you don't know if you ate fats that are kosher or not kosher, you don't know, but you think you may have. So the din is you bring a carbon asham talui, and then if later on you find out that you actually ate treif or fats that were not kosher, then you bring a carbon chatas. But during that time, up until you know for sure, there's another carbon called asham talui. So our Mishnah says only for sure Asham brings kapara. Asham Tali does not bring kapara. The Torah, when it gives you the halachas and writes the concept of Asham Tali, the Torah does write that it brings forgiveness. So how can our Mishnah says only an Asham Badei brings forgiveness, not an Asham Tali? So the Gemara says, Hanech mechape kapara gemura. An Asham Vadai brings about total forgiveness. Asham Talu eina mechape kapara gemura. And Asham Talui does not bring about total forgiveness. In other words, if you would find out later on that you actually did the Avera, then although you brought an Asham Talui, you have to bring a Karban Chatas. Iname, or that. Hanach, if you have to bring an Asham Badai, you can't get away with it. You always have to bring. Ein acha mechape parasim. There's no substitute for the kapara. But Asham Talui, there is a substitute for bringing an Asham Talui. The Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, if obligated to bring a carbon chatas or a carbon asham, even if Yom Kippur passed, you still have that obligation. Chayavim, asham tluyin patorim. But if you were obligated to bring an asham tali and you didn't get a chance to bring it and Yom Kippur came, you're potter from bringing that. You're not obligated to bring an asham tali. So that's why a Mishnah does not discuss asham tali. It only discusses a real carbon chatas and a real carbon asham. Now, Mishnah said, Misa v'yom kippurim mechaprim im hatshuva. Again, certain averis you have to die in order to get atonement, and certain averis, a little lighter averis, you just Yom Kippur. But the caveat is that you have to have tshuva with it. So the Gemara asks a question: Im hatshuva in bifnei atzman loy. Only with tshuva does Yom Kippur bring about atonement. But if you don't do tshuva but just the fact that you merely passed Yom Kippur, it doesn't bring about atonement. Namely, let us say our Mishnah Deloy Kirabi doesn't go according to Rabbi. Why? The Tanya we learned in the Bryson. Here we're going to see the most fascinating opinion of Rabbeinu HaKadosh. He says you don't even have to do tshuva on Yom Kippur. How about that? Rabbi says, I'll call Avera Shabbatorah, and every Avera that you do in the Torah, no matter what, Bain Asa Tshuva, whether you did Tshuva, Bain Loy Asa Tshuva, whether you did not do Tshuva, Yom HaKippurim Mechaper. Yom Kippur brings about atonement. Chutz, there's an exception. One is Mipoirik oil. Someone, Rashi says over here, it's someone who denies in the existence of God. One. Another umegala ponim b'Torah, somebody who mistranslates the Torah, or he's like makes fun of Moshe, he makes fun of the Torah and saying that there are extra words in the Torah. Number three is umefa bris basar, he does not give himself a bris milah, right? So all those averas, although they're very bad averas, there you have to do tshuva. Shem also teshuva. If you did tshuva, Yom Kippur mechaper. The imloy also tshuva, you didn't do tshuva, ein Yom Kippur mechaper. Yom Kippur does not bring about atonement. So what this fascinating opinion is that you don't even need to do tshuva for 90% of the averas of the Torah. Just the fact that Yom Kippur passes on, you get atonement. So our Mishnah says that you always need tshuva, must not go like according to Rebbe. So the Gemara says, afilu tema Rebbe. You can even say our Mishnah agrees with Rebbe's. Tshuva baya Yom Kippurim. In other words, tshuva needs Yom Kippur. In other words, even if you did tshuva, you still have to have Yom Kippur. That's what our Mishnah says. Tshuva Yom Kippurim mechaperim. Yom Kippurim is needed even if you did tshuva. That's what our Mishnah means. But Yom Kippurim alone, loy by a tshuva. Yom Kippurim itself does not need tshuva. So you have to read our Mishnah is that fine, it's a nice thing to do tshuva, but not necessary. Even just Yom Kippurim passing, it brings about atonement. So then you can ask, what's the point of doing tshuva? So I don't know exactly, but there is kapara and there is a complete kapara. So to get a complete kapara, you probably have to do tshuva. But Yom Kippurim, according to Rebbe, brings about atonement even without tshuva.
So according to Rebbe, basically, with or without the Kohen Gadol, it's Yom Kippur comes.
That's a very good point. I didn't get a chance to delve deeply, but I would think that Rebbe is talking about only when the Beis Hamikdash, when you had the Sa'ir HaMishtaleach, then you could say Yom Kippurim by itself would be mechaper. But nowadays you always need tshuva. Right. That's a good point. That according to when the Beis Hamikdash was around, yeah. So when the Beis Hamikdash was around, just the fact that the Sawyer went off the Azazel, that brought about the kapara, whether you did tshuva or not. Yeah,
but the other thing also interesting is that according to Rebbe, there are no averas that you need misa for, right? You just have to do tshuva. Is that right?
Kol averas bein also tshuva Yom Kippurim mechaper. Right. When we say misa, right, you wouldn't need misa according to Rebbe because misas obviously if you were caught with Adim and they warned you, obviously they bring you to Bezdin and kill you. But what we're talking about is when they didn't catch you, but you did an avera that potentially could have brought you Misa.
Mhm.
So according to the Tanakama, yes, you need Misa, a natural death or something like that. But according to Rebbe, you don't. Seems that way. I always thought that even nowadays, the fact is that when you do an Aveira, you have a drive to do an Aveira again. It makes it, you're driven to do it. And Yom Kippur, even if you don't do tshuva, the fact that you went through a Yom Kippur, it takes away the drive to do the Aveira again. So even without tshuva. Anyway, tshuva mechaperes al Aveir's kalas al esev al loisaseh. Tshuva brings a kapara on a positive commandment and a negative commandment. So the Gemara says, obviously, negative commandments are much more severe than positive commandments. So the Gemara asks, the Mishnah tells you that Tshuva brings a atonement for a negative commandment, al esei miboya. On a positive commandment, does he have to tell me that it brings about kapara? Rabbi Yehuda said, hachi kamar. This is what it means to say. Al esei ba'al loisasei shenitek lasei. On essay, a positive commandment, and a loisasei that you can be remedied by an essay. For example, like gazela, you steal and you can remedy it by returning the object that you stole. So those type of so that loisasei has a din like an essay. Those tshuva alone is mechaper. But a loisasei gomer, then you need tshuva and Yom Kippur. But a loisasei gomer loy, but a loisasei completely. Tshuva alone doesn't work. Raminu, I'll ask you a question. Elohein akalas. The Brisa says these are the light mitzvahs. Essay the loisasei. Any essay and a loisasei, and pashtus every essay and every loisasei, you could do a light mitzvah and do tshuva. The only exception that tshuva doesn't work and you need Yom Kippur is chutz min loisisa, except from swearing falsely in the name of God. Because it says God doesn't forgive so easily if you use his name in vain. So it must be that only this Aveira of Loisisa, you need Yom Kippur. But any other Loisese, like Shatnez, you don't need Yom Kippur. So this is a question against Rav Yehuda, who holds that you need Yom Kippur for a regular Loisese. So the Gemara says, no, this price means Loisisa, v'chol dedomila. Any lav similar to Loisisa needs Yom Kippur. That God doesn't forgive so easily, but only the exception is a lav hanitik laaseh. Tashema, come in here. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, kol shehu meloisisa lamata, any type of avera that's from loisisa and bottom, then any type of loisese, tshuva mechaperes. Loisisa lamala, if it's above loisisa, it's like loisisa and above, tshuva toila, you need tshuva, v'yom kippur mechaper. So it seems to apply, this seems to be indication that every loisese, you can get just tshuva alone works. You don't need Yom Kippur. It's only loisisa and similar averis of swearing falsely in the name of God, that needs Yom Kippur. So again, this is a difficulty. And for the Gemara, loisisa v'chol dedomala. Loisisa and anything similar to that needs Yom Kippur. Again, it includes every lav. And when it says over here, when it says loisisa lamata, it means a type of lav that's nitik laseh, then tshuva alone works. Tashma, lefi shenema b'choyrev tshuva. The Torah wrote, when they did the egel, the Torah wrote, v'nakeh, I will clean you. Yochol af loisisa imam. I would have thought that if you do the aveira of loisisa, of swearing in the name of God falsely, you could get just tshuva alone works. Talmud lo yanaka. The Torah says, I will not, God says, I will not forgive those that swear in my name falsely. That's so that God doesn't forgive. Yochel afshar chayve lavin kain. I would think that other lavim are similar to loisisa, and that God doesn't forgive so easily. Talmud lo es shemoy. Shemoy hu deinamaka. If you swear in God's name falsely, God doesn't forgive so easily. Avamanaka she'ar chayve lavim. So God forgives other chayve lavim. So clearly you see in this brisa that any lav, not eating kosher, not eating nevela, all you have to do is tshuva and you get forgiveness. And you, Rav Yehuda, told me that no, a regular lav needs Yom Kippur. So the Gemara says, Tanoi, it's really a Tanoim. And here's the Tana that agrees with the Amor Rav Yehuda. The Tanya we learned in the Brisa. Alma teshuva mechaperes. What does tshuva alone work? Al essay, ba'al lois essay, shenitek la'aseh. Any essay and a lois essay that can be remedied by an essay. That tshuva alone works. Ba'almat tshuva toila, and what is tshuva? Tshuva protects you. Yom Kippur mechaper, and Yom Kippur brings about forgiveness. Al krisis val misas bezdin. If you did an avera that you person's supposed to get chorus and misas bezdin, so actually you don't have to die young, or you don't have to get. I mean, you're not going to get misas bezdin if they didn't warn you. But if you do tshuva and you wait for Yom Kippur, you get kapara. And even on a loisese gomar, you also need tshuva and Yom Kippur. So here's the brisa that says in a loisese you need Yom Kippur as well. Amamar, we said before, lefi shenema b'chorev v'nake b'nola. The Torah wrote by the Egel, God will forgive. One of the Yid Gimel Midas. So Manolan, how do we know that God forgives? How do we know that it has to do with tshuva? Maybe God just wipes it clean because he doesn't require you to do tshuva. So the Tanya, that's not true. The Tanya, Rab Loza Omer, you can't say that God wipes away averis for nothing. Shekvar nema, because the pasuk says lo yanake. God is not going to forgive you. But you can't say God never forgives. Shekvar nema nake. But the pasuk says God does forgive and wipes you clean. Okay, Tzad, how do you resolve the contradiction? Manakohu lashavim, ve'ena manake le'eshavim. God forgives those that do tshuva and does not forgive those that don't do tshuva. Again, so here we are, basically, again with all the possibilities, right? The possibilities of averis that you could do, but there's certain needs tshuva alone, certain needs tshuva and Yom Kippur, and certain needs tshuva and misa, as we learned in the Mishnah. Shol Rab Moshe ben Charis is Rab Loza ben Azariah ben Roimi. This Rab Loza ben Azariah somehow made it to Rome, and Rab Moshe ben Charis met up with him in Rome. Shemati, he said, I heard Abba Chaluke Kapara Shahaya Reb Shmuel Daris, that there are 4 categories of forgiveness, of averis that you do, and different types of remedies that you need to get atonement. I heard there are 4 categories. So Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah told him, Amar Shloishem, they're really 3, but actually 4, but you could count them as 3. But tshuva in kol echad ve'echad, because the common denominator with all of them is that you need tshuva. And this is the crux of the whole issue. Overall essay. You did an avera and you didn't do an essay. You didn't put on tefillin. V'shav, and you did tshuva. They don't let him move from his spot until they forgive him. He's not punished. Shnema shuvu vonim shoivivim. Okay, and the Torah, the pasuk calls you are repenters. Over a loisasei, but also tshuva. If you did a loisasei and you did tshuva, so then a loisasei, let's say you ate not kosher or you ate you put on shatnez, tshuva toila via mikipur mechaper. Shnema kiviyom hazeh yichaper lechem mikol chatei seichem. All other averis of loisasei is you need tshuva and Yom Kippur. Overall, krisis or misas bezin. If you're over in a krisis or misas bezin, let's say chas v'shalom, someone's makal Shabbos or did one of the aroyas, v'as tshuva and you did tshuva v'yom kippurim toilet. You need tshuva and Yom Kippur that protects you. The yisurim mimarak markin. Here we see the third. You need difficulties. You need difficulties up until Yom Kippur. Okay. In other words, you need a lot of difficulties. Shenema ufagati b'shevet pisham uvenegoim avaynam. I will bring about upon them, with my stick to bring about forgiveness on their negligence, and I'll bring about plagues negoim because of their iniquities. That's the avera of krisis and mitzvahs bezin. Now the Brisa says, Al mishi yesh chila Hashem b'yadai. He desecrated Hashem's name. So then it's the worst. Tshuva does not have the power to protect you. Nor the Yom Kippur to bring forgiveness. And not problems, Yisurim, suffering to bring about forgiveness and to bring about your punishment. It's not a punishment. El kulan toilim. They're all hanging and they're all somehow protecting you. Umisa mimarekes. But finally, the thing that wipes it off the map, that it's not part of your balance sheet, is only death. Shenema v'nigla ba'oznei Hashem tzvokais. It was revealed in the ears of Hashem. Im yichupar ha'avoin hazeh lechem atamusim. This aveir will never be forgiven until you die. And that pasuk is talking about Chil Hashem. So certain aveiros of Chil Hashem is not forgiven no matter what. The only way it's wiped off your balance sheet is only after death. So the Gemara now wants to understand, hey chedam Chil Hashem. What is considered a Chil Hashem? So the bottom line of all these opinions are that a Chil Hashem is when other people will learn that that your Torah doesn't matter, or doesn't you spent time learning Torah and you spent time being a Jew, and it didn't stop you from doing Averis, and people will learn from that there is no God. That's basically what Chil Hashem is. Amar Rav says, it depends on the person. I'll give you an example. Kagoin Ano. Rav said on himself that he's a rabbi. If I go buy meat from the butcher, right? And and I don't pay for it right away, right? So people will think the butcher is thinking that maybe Rav is not going to pay. People will think that the rabbi has something, he can take meat for free because he's giving a hechsher, a free hechsher for this butcher or something like that. So people talk and people don't respect the rabbi with his learning. So Rav said, I cannot go to the butcher store without paying right away, even though everybody else can buy on credit. So Amar Abaya qualified. Loi Shano, that was not taught. Ela ba'asra de loi tavi. In a city that it's based on trust. You took meat from the butcher, but the butcher never wrote it down, and he trusted you that you will pay him. So there, a rabbi cannot buy meat without paying him right away. But if the butcher, it's a city that people write it down, and therefore the butcher is going to come collect, he just wrote it down, less than bar, there's not a problem with that, because many people buy on credit. And the butcher shop, the owner of the butcher shop will come collect it. So nobody's going to think anything wrong with that. In my city, Masi Mechasia is a city where they collect their debts. In other words, it's not an honor system, but actually the owner of the store actually goes about collecting people who owe money. Abaya was very careful. Kiddushakal Bisra, when he bought meat, betrayed Shutafe from two partners, let's say two people own the butcher store. So when Abaya bought meat, Yov Zuvid Lahai, he would pay for the meat, paying one of the own partners, V'zuz Lahai, and pay the same thing to the other partner. And because he was scared that for a second they shouldn't think that he didn't pay for the meat. And then the two partners would meet, and they realized that Abaya paid twice. And they would make a calculation, and they would return Abaya the money. That's how careful he was, that there should not be a moment of suspect against him. Rabbi Yochanan said, Kagoin Ana, Rabbi Yochanan sometimes overlearned his mind, and therefore he had to take off his tefillin and had to not learn. So he said, Kagoin Ana, the Mesagena Arba Amas tefillin. When I walk with 4 amas without saying Torah and tefillin, people don't realize that I can't talk Torah anymore because my mind is not working, and I need to give it a break. People say, "Oh, you see, the rabbi is engaging in nonsense," but they don't. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan says, when I do that, it leads to a Chil Hashem. Yitzchak tebei Rabbi Yanai Omar kol shachaverev mispaishem machmeshmu asay. If his friends are embarrassed by what they hear about him, that is Chil Hashem. So the people say rumors about him and things like that, about probably having to do with snus. That's a Chil Hashem. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman Yitzchak says, When people say, may his Lord forgive him. When it's written in the newspapers what he did, and people say, may his Lord that he always served forgive him, that's a chil Hashem, because people are saying that sarcastically, and they're saying, look what all his learning did for him. Abaya explained it's kedetanya, like the Brisa. The Brisa learns a pasuk that we say every day in Kriya Shema. Pasuk says, "V'yahavta eis Hashem Elokecha." You have to love the God. What does that mean, loving God? How could you love God? It's the opposite. People should love to serve God through you. By watching you, people will love to serve, to become religious. Why? A person should read Chumash, learn Mishnayos, Mishamash Talmid Chachamim, which probably means learning Talmud. And he's very pleasant to deal with in business. Obviously, you're not learning a whole day, you're in business. So, what do people say about such a person? Lucky is his father taught him Torah. Woe for people who never learn Torah. Because look at this person that learned Torah. How pleasant are his ways. And how orderly is his actions. In other words, he does things very smartly and pleasantly, and he's calm. God says, he said about me, Avdiata. God says, you're my slave. Yisrael asher b'cha espar. With you, I'm very, very proud of. Aval, the opposite. The guy learns and he teaches Mishnayos and does Talmud. And he doesn't, he's not trustworthy. He doesn't believe that God provides. That's basically it. So he ends up not stealing, but, he's not straight in business. He denies commission and, other things like that. And not only that, and he doesn't speak pleasantly with people. He's rough on people, right? On his employees. What do people say about such a person? Woe is that person that he learns Torah. Look at this person that learned Torah from his rabbi, his father. How destructive is his way, how disgusted are his ways, how his actions are messy and impulsive, and how disgusting are his ways when he deals with people, unpleasant. These are the people and were thrown out of Israel. That has to do with the Chil Hashem that happened after the Jews were sent into Golus. People were saying, "Oh, this is what happens to that religious people who are the chosen people." New Gemara. Amar Rab Chama bar Chanina, Gedolah Teshuva. Teshuva has such a power. Shemivia refuas la'olam. It can bring about healing. Shenema erpa meshuvasam I have aim nadava. The God says, because of your tshuva, I bring about healing. So not only do you actually heal your own soul, but actually you bring healing to the world. Maybe there's somebody sick, and all of a sudden he gets healed for some reason. It's because somewhere else somebody did tshuva. We're all connected. Rabbi Chama bar Chanina Rami. Rabbi Chama bar Chanina asked a contradiction. It says the pasuk shuvu banim shayvavim. That do tshuva shayvavim. You off-centered people. That means the reason why you did the Averis is because you're not balanced. The Mikara Shaivamat, the reason why you did the Averis is because you were unbalanced. Uksiv, and the pasuk says, Erpa Mishvuai Sechem, I'm going to bring about healing because of your tshuva. In other words, when you did the Avera, you were in a proper state. But then you did tshuva, I'm going to bring about healing. But you're at fault for doing the Avera. So basically the contradiction is the first pasuk implies that you're not at fault for doing the Avera. And the second pasuk implies that you are at fault for doing the Avera. How do you resolve that? Like kasha. Depends how strong your tshuva is. Kan me ahava. If you do tshuva out of love, that means not because you're afraid of punishment, but you somehow feel a connection to God, and you feel a love that you don't want to hurt God by doing Averis. That's a tshuva that's so powerful that God considers it as if you never did the Aveira in the first place. Kan, but when does God consider it that you did the Aveira in the first place? If your tshuva is done meyira, out of fear. In other words, you're afraid that God's going to punish you. That's why you're doing tshuva. So that is an Aveira, but yet tshuva will bring about a healing and a forgiveness. Rabbi Yehuda Rami. Rabbi Yehuda asked the contradiction. Ksiv, it says in the pasuk, "Shuvu banim shayvivim erpa mishvuay sechem." Uksiv, anoichi baalti echem ulakachti eskan echem meir shnei mishpacha. So the difficulty here is that in one pasuk calls someone who does tshuva banim, children. You're my sons. Do tshuva. Another pasuk calls us after we do tshuva. You're my workers. I'm your boss. So the Gemara says, "Loikasha." That's not a difficulty. Kan me'ahava amira, that you did tshuva either because out of love or me'ira out of afraid that something will happen. So then God says, "You're my children. I accept your tshuva." Kan, the person did tshuva ayidei yisurim. He actually got punished and he's suffering. That's when he's doing tshuva. God, of course, accepts that person's tshuva, but he doesn't consider him his son. Amar Rabbi Levi. Rabbi Levi says, "Gedoyle teshuva shemagas ad kisei hakavod." That we're going to learn like the Rabbeinu Chananel. That tshuva is so powerful that even if you did an aveira that's so strong that reached the kisei hakavod, that so to speak, God is right in front of God, the tshuva has the power to erase that. That's how powerful tshuva is, no matter what the aveira is. And God is, so to speak, it's like like the thing that God pays most attention to, so to speak, is the tshuva that a person does. So it's right there in the Oval Office, so to speak. Shenema shuva Yisrael ad Hashem lekecha. The tshuva that you do, Jewish people, is, so to speak, right there by God. God pays full attention to that. Next, we're on Amid Sheni. We'll do a little bit more, and that's it. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Gedoyle tshuva is a powerful thing. It, so to speak, makes God violate his own Torah. How does God violate his own Torah? By accepting your tshuva? Well, the din is that if you're married to somebody and a person gives a divorce to his wife, if the wife married somebody else and then divorces the second husband, the first husband cannot remarry the wife anymore, because since she married somebody else, he cannot take her back. And yet, Jewish people, so to speak, are divorced from God. They go ahead and embrace other gods and other idols, and then they want to do tshuva and come back to God. God accepts them back like our first marriage, and that's against the Torah. Shenema, the Torah says. God says, "Hey, yishalach ishes ishtoi." If a man would send away his wife, and then she marries somebody else, that means they got divorced and she married somebody else. Can she return back to her first husband? That's for sure an avera. You did znus with different other idols, and I take you back. So in certain ways, God doesn't keep his Torah. That's the power of tshuva. Amar Rabbi Yonasan. Rabbi Yonasan said, "Gedoyle tshuva shemakarebes segula, brings about the final redemption. Shenema uvolatzi goyel lushev vesha b'Yaakov. Ma tam uvolatzi goyel. Why does God bring about redemption? Mishum deshavi pesha b'Yaakov. That's because there's a lot of people who did big averos and they're doing tshuva. The redemption is on its way, and that's what you're seeing, the tshuva movement today. And there's a feeling that the geula is very nearby. One more piece of Gemara, two more pieces. Amar Resh Lakish, gedoyle tshuva shezdoinis nasas leikishkagos. Tshuva has the power to take your averos and turn it into mistakes, even things that you did on purpose. If you do tshuva, it could be counted as if you did it by mistake. Shnema, shuva Yisrael ad Hashem lekecha, ki chashalta be'aveinecha. God turns your avoin, your iniquity, your things that you did on purpose, to chashalta, like that you stumbled on it. Ha'avei mezeru. An avid is something that you do on purpose. The kakari le michshol, and God calls it a stumbling block. So the Gemara says, "Eini, that's not even so. It's even more than that. Not only do your purpose sins become like mistake sins, but they become mitzvahs. Rish Lakish says, Gedoyle tshuva has such a power. Shesadoinis naasas like kischuyos. The averis that you did on purpose become like mitzvahs, merits. Shnemar uveshoiv rasha mirishoiv v'asa mishpat utzdaka. When you do tshuva and you do justice and tzedakah, aleihem, on all of these things, the averis that you did and the mishpat and tzedakah, yichya, become alive. So how's that possible? That means that you it becomes like a merit for you. The averis that you did has the din like tzedakah. So the Gemara says, like Kasha, it's not difficult. Kama ahava, if you do tshuva out of love, then the averis become like mitzvahs, like merits. Kan biyira, if you do averis that out of fear, then your averis could become like mistakes, but not like merits, not as powerful. And one more last thing, Amr Shmuel bar Nachmenu, Amr Yonason, Gedoyle tshuva is so powerful, shema'areches shnoishes shalodem. It can bring about arichas yomim. Shenema uveshuv rasha mirishasai yichya. When a rasha does tshuva, he becomes alive, because even the averis that you did, the averis that you did, so that those years are considered like dead years. When you do tshuva, you make those years, so to speak, comes alive. So that's how tshuva lengthens your years. So those years are counted as good years, even those years that you were doing an avera. We'll stop over here.
Bernard, just a quick question. I want to take the time of the Chevra, but there is a source for Kiddush Hashem that it's been, it's between Jew and Jew. Is that correct? There is a source in the Torah. As far as Mikadeshot, there's a key, right? Is there a source for Chilul Hashem between a Jew and a Jew, or can Chilul Hashem be also between a Jewish person also and a Gentile?
I always thought, let's take a Rashi, I'll point, that's a good question. But look at Rashi says, Heicha dami chila Hashem, choite umachati acherem. You see that Rashi over there?
Yeah.
So it's not just about doing it in front of Goyim. It's that if other people learn from you and say, you know what, if he can do it, I can do it too.
So that to me would be like another Jew.
Right, I would think so.
Right. Well,
is there a source for that though? Is there a source?
Isn't the pasuk itself in Emor v'los chalu Hashem kachi v'nik dashti b'soch b'nei Yisrael?
So it all implies the same.
It sounds like it's all referring to b'soch b'nei Yisrael, right? I think that's
so it's Kiddush Hashem and Chilul Hashem.
Right. It sounds like the same pasuk in the millennium of Shor Chesed at the end. I think it's
I would say that if a goy learns from you that stealing doesn't matter, or things like that, things that are from the Sheva mitzvahs, and he says, if the Jew is not keeping these Sheva mitzvahs, I certainly don't have to. That's also machti acherem. So maybe it's not just a Jew, as long as he does averos from your actions.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll continue. There's a lot to learn, but one more daf.
Thank you.
We're almost there.
Good enough.